They said the truth won't survive beside the lies that maintain the decaying faces of this place.
This is Hold the Truth Hostage, where if the truth was so important, we wouldn't negotiate with lies. Now, I got a request, but, I'm going to do that later. But this video is a very special video. This video is about the sins of single motherhood. And this is going to be a very long-term series. I might do a good 3 to 5 parts of this, but this is what I call sins of single motherhood. Sins of single mothers. Now, the reason this is, a very big sin is that it has long-term effects on future children. And not just their children, as in, that single mother's own child, but their eventual child. And it will create a long-term set of limitations. Now, before I go deeper now, let's discuss the widow. Now, I think a lot of big problem in the community is that we don't discuss from a widow's perspective, as in we don't showcase or talk about the negative aspect of single motherhood from the widow's aspect. That widow that didn't want to be a single mother but happened to lose her, her husband or her boyfriend, the father of her children. We don't ever talk about that perspective and say, look at all the struggles that this widow is going to go through. Why would you volunteer to face the same struggles as a widow in becoming a single mother? Now, this one, I'm going to do these videos in, pieces, because I think I got to start doing that. So this one's going to be about the long-term debt. The long-term debt of single motherhood to the children. Now, here's the big problem with single motherhood. Now, as I was talking about from the widow's perspective, now when a widow loses the father of her children, she now has to work harder. She now has to work harder to take care of those children and actually have less time to be with those children, to, bond with them and, basically spend a lot of family time with those children, and that's a huge aspect of being a widow, because the father's not there to, harbor some of the labor, harbor the work. So the mother would have more time with the kids and the children would have more time to be with their mother because their father's around. And that level of stability wouldn't just be, well, I see my mom when she comes from work. That's what a widow has to face. A widow will constantly, being the only parent in her children's life, will have to somehow manage the labor, going to work and actually not being in those children's lives. And those children will come to reach out to things outside of their family to find acceptance and so on, And what's gonna happen, what happens is with a widow is that, all that time without the father of her children involved, she's gonna lose those children to the environment. You know what I'm saying? She's going to lose those children, be it to violence, gang violence, and whatnot. That's what's going to happen. A lot of corruption in the community will come into her home because she's usually at work. Now, let's get to the problem. Now, here's where the long-term debt is gonna, it's gonna play a major factor. Long-term debt in the family. Now, you see, when there's a mother and a father, and this is what a lot of, a lot of MGTOW channels won't speak of, because, a lot of men don't calculate and don't think about this aspect, or haven't really spoken about it. So what happens is that, as I said, with a widow, once she loses the father, what happens is the children then lose the ability to focus solely upon their children when they're ready to have children, and continue the family bloodline and so on. What I mean by that is this: that once the father's been taken out of the picture, what happens is that now these kids being raised by their single mother or widowed mother, now these kids will have to worry about taking care of their mother as she gets older. Since the father isn't around, those children, when they grow up, will have to worry about their mother. And this is one of the biggest issues with single motherhood and the widow aspect, is that children now, her children as they get older, cannot move on from their mother. Now, yes, you could move out and live on your own, but that worry that they have for their mother, that worry that they're gonna have for their mother, that usually their father would take care of. This is one of the huge things women don't think about with the way the system works, is that the effect that you breaking up with your husband's going to have, the effect it's going to have on the effect it's going to have on you, and on your children, because now they can't move on. They have to, something that their father would have been handling, like, their father would have been handling the retirement, retirement with the children, retirement with their mom. You see, when you're in a family and that your father's around, you don't worry about your mother anymore. That's your father's job. He's the one that's supposed to worry about that, taking care of her, and leading her, and making sure that their expenses have been well spent. So when they retire, their children have nothing to worry about. And what's happened with this massive level of divorces and what child support and the destruction of the family, is that those children can't move forward. As in, before you even have your own kids, now you're thinking, okay, your mom's working, your mom's going on 60 or whatever. Let's just say, an honest truth, most of the single mothers don't have any retirement plans. So now you have to worry about taking care of your mother. At the same time, you have to worry about taking care of your own kids. It adds a level of issues to it that normally that wouldn't have existed had the father been in the picture. So whenever a family breaks up, it leaves a long-term strain on the children, and damages their own futures, because now these kids have to worry about their mother. Now, let's say their father, and a lot of men in the MGTOW community like to talk and say, they're not worried about the father and so on. Usually, even during divorce, usually the father's gonna be all right. His head, if his head is correct, if he's still a logical man, at the end of the day, the children won't really worry about their father. Their father, he'll take care of himself. And in all honesty, during a divorce, a man might actually spend his money even more wisely, because now he has no choice but to do that. He has to live more of a, live based on his means rather than chasing luxury or things like that, because, he's got alimony bills to pay and so on. So what happens when the father isn't around is that it has a long-term damage on the children moving forward, because the children are going to keep looking behind them to question, man, is mom going to be all right? Mom's 60 years old, or mom's going on 60 or her late 50s, man. Mom can't work like she used to work. How are we going to keep a roof on mom's head? And at the same time, how are we going to keep a roof on our own children's head? You know what I'm saying? So, that's the big issue here. The big issue is that a lot of a lot of the children, from the daughters to the sons, they're gonna struggle to move forward, because as they get older, their mother's gonna be more dependent on them. And what the single motherhood does, and all the divorce, has a long-term damage on the children moving forward, because now not only do they have to face the world, they have to keep questioning and wondering, who's going to take care of my mom? Is my mom all right? All these issues that would not have been there were their mom not to divorce. You see, a lot of men in the manosphere speak about, women leaving their husbands, the divorce, and so on. A lot of them speak about that, but a lot of them don't speak about the long-term effect and long-term debt. And that debt is their mom being alive. Their mother becomes living embodiment of debt. And in actuality, the sad thing to say is that those children, the son and the daughter, or your kids will not be able to progress, because their mom is a living debt and a burden in their life, because they have to keep worrying about her economic safety and her economic stability. While if their mom was with their father, as it should be, and actually didn't divorce, didn't put them on child support, didn't destroy their family unit, these children would be able to move and progress forward without worrying about their mother, and that's a big issue that happens with single motherhood, is that single motherhood turns the mother in the long term, in the future, into a living embodiment of a debt that their children have to continuously pay until she dies. And that debt is that these children have to take care of their mother, something that their father would have been doing had she not destroyed their family structure, So, and what happens is, and what's sad is that it becomes a situation where these children would be better off if their mother passed away. Now, assuming these children don't have the means to, take care of their own children, let me take children out. Assuming that the son and daughter don't have the means to take care of their children along with their mother, she becomes a debt in their life. And in actuality, it becomes that they would have been better off and soon as possible if their mother passes away, because that debt would be relieved from them. Her living becomes a debt and a detriment to their own futures. Now, and to me, I think, and I'm gonna do a separate video on that, where where I explain why a lot of mothers, single mothers, become eventually grandmothers that are babysitters. Babysitters. I'll do that later on. But the thing is this, man, is that in being a single mother, it ensures that their children, when they grow up, their son and daughter or whatever, will have to take care of them in the future, which leaves them with less resources to take care of their own children. That's the huge problem with single motherhood. You know what I'm saying? It has a long-term damage on the children as they mature into adults, because their mother becomes the living embodiment of debt. And this debt doesn't allow them to take care of their own children with as much resources as they can. Because guess what? They have to split up those resources to help take care of mom, you know? So that son can't be the best father he could be. That daughter can't be the best mother she can be, because she's worried about her mother. And the other scenario is that when they get, let's assume that, you know, a single mother's daughter gets married. Now this daughter is gonna bring in the baggage of her mother, her worrying about her own mother, who happens to be, you know, a single mother, into that marriage, into that relationship. And now that man that married her has to worry about taking care of her mother along with their future kids. You know, a single mother, and I'll probably do a part 2 on this, but you know, this single mother living debt, you know, I'll probably do a part 2, but basically this also implies to her children eventually getting married or starting their own family, because now that they have to worry about their mother as she ages, something that their father was gonna worry about and handle, now they bring in that baggage into their marriage and long-term relationships, where, you know, you're dating, for example, you're dating this girl for 5 years and she's worried about her mother. She's worried about taking care of her mother and who's going to be there for her mother, while you're trying to have children and start a family. So you have to see that a single mother in the long term destroys the health and potential of her own children starting a family, because they have to worry about her, you know. So she becomes the embodiment of a debt they have to pay for. So in all honesty, man, single motherhood doesn't just hurt the children when they're young, but it hurts the children when they get older into adulthood, because the longer their mother lives, the longer the debt that she is exists, you know, them taking care of her and all that, you know. So it's a huge and major issue, you know. And it has a lot of long-term issues, you know. It will affect their children's eventual marriage, long-term relationships, and so on. Now, I don't bring the father in, because the father, odds are, you know, he'll, depending on his scenario, odds are he'll adapt. You know, he'll adapt and take responsibility for his situation. But the mother, on the other end, you know, being a single mother, you know, if the divorce wasn't for reasonable means, as in, you know, domestic abuse and such, if it wasn't for those reasons, she just wanted to leave her husband or long-term boyfriend or father of their child, she's gonna end up spending a lot of that child support money on vengeance and so on, and she's gonna try to compete with that man's own money to reward her children, but not saving for her future at all. You know, so in essence, man, the single mother is critically a long-term damage on the children. Everybody, what's up? And this is Hold the Truth Hostage, where if the truth was so important, we wouldn't negotiate with lies. Now, this video is part 2 of single mother debt, single mother living debt. Now, as I explained on the last video, which you could watch, is that what happens when a mother when a mother decides to break up her family, be it with divorce or child support, what happens is she becomes the embodiment of debt, living debt to her children, because now instead of her children being able to move on because their father would be taking care of their mother, they now have to sacrifice their resources for their future children to eventually help their mother that is now too old to take care of herself, and without their father present, she is basically helpless, and they'll have to take resources that could have went to their children to take care of their mother or to start a new family. And also how this affects you as a man. For example, if you got into a relationship with a woman who was raised by a single mother, you would have to eventually take care of her mother some shape or form because her mother has no father. Now imagine that, it's in some communities, you got the black community, over 60% you have a single mother rate. Then other communities you have 50% and rising. So that means a lot of children, their mothers become the embodiment of living debt. Now, part two of this video, I'm going to be explaining to you and some of you might not be able to stomach this, because the truth on this aspect is going to be very painful, because it's going to really question the meaning of a fresh start. It's going to really question what you have to do to actually save your family and actually start a new legacy. Now, this is all assuming, now let's just assume that the laws are just. Let's assume that, the laws are right. They're not biased. You don't have to worry about, being put on child support without reasonable means, such as domestic violence or anything like that. For example, your children's mother would have to prove that there's a reason you need to be removed from your children so she could collect child support. And a divorce, and I think RPM said it best with this one, that if she filed for divorce, she has to pay for it. You know what I mean? So let's assume all the laws are just between man and woman. Even if all the laws are just, it doesn't change the fact that if you're in a relationship and your mother was a single mother, she will still be the living embodiment of debt. At some point, you're going to have to worry about taking care of your single, your mother that's a single mother, or aiding in some shape or form to help the single mother of your wife. Now, remember, we're assuming all the laws are just. So now what can you do, and how far would you have to go, to remove that living embodiment of debt, which is now your single mother, your mother who brought you into this world and removed your father out of the picture? Well, here's the answer, and the answer might be, like I said, it's going to be very painful to some of you. Well, you got to look at it like this. You got to look at it that your mother, your mother who's a single mother, you have to look at it at that she abandoned you. She abandoned you when she pushed your father
out of your life. So when she pushed your father out of your life, that's basically the point where she destroyed your future. You know, she destroyed your future. So in the future, you do not owe her anything since she abandoned the stability that was present with your father there. You in turn, for you to start your own family and for you to be able to take care of your family and actually clean the slate, clean the issue of her being a living debt, just like she abandoned your father, you're gonna have to abandon her. And there's a lot of cases, I think there's some cases where this happens where, a mother pushed away the children's father. And as the children grew up, all that time not being around their father turned to a level of hatred that, that was growing to the point where they could not stand their mother. So they literally, put themselves out of her, they took themselves away from being involved with her in any shape or form. So to clean the slate, to actually give your family a chance, you would have to remove your mother from the picture. Now remember, this only would be a course of action, if, it can be proven and without a shadow of doubt that, your mother was responsible for separating and pushing your father out of your life. So now some people might argue, well, you could just, give her a job, make her the person to take care of your children as their grandmother and all that. But, there's still gonna be health issues and so on. So if you look at it like that, it's gonna cost a lot of money, even if, your mother's babysitting your children and so on. You're gonna have to pay for health issues and all that. So the the only chance you have, and I know, your children, it would mean that your children would have to grow up without a grandmother. You know what I mean? Your children would have to grow up without a grandmother because you would have to remove yourself from that. And the other thing is, another reason you would have to remove yourself besides the fact that your mother, that's a single mother, is a living form of debt and expenses and debt for you in the future, is that what if, we all know, women tend to side with women. What if there's a little issue that presents itself and she starts to insert herself between your relationship with your, be it wife or the child, the mother of your children? Now remember, if she was able to push your father away, what's stopping her from destroying the relationship you have with your present, be it wife or child of your mother, child of your, your mother of your children? So it becomes a high risk thing if you keep her in your life. Sure, your children won't have a grandmother, but they won't at the same time be put before a high level risk of her placing toxicity and, a level, placing a way to break up your family. Because if she was capable of pushing your father away while you were growing up, then what's going to stop her from being a risk to your own family? She was able to push away your father, and he had your blood, you know what I'm saying? He had your blood, he's the other half of you. What's going to stop her from pushing away your wife or getting in the middle or, destroying that family? And there's a lot of cases of that happening where, somebody's mom who was a single mother, and remember, she grew up in a state where stability for her is not having any stability at all. You see, normal is a routine that's repeated over and over again. So her routine, her living routine, and her habits were, a broken house. You know what I'm saying? A broken house with where there was no father, no real family structure. So that's normal for your mom that raised you as a single mother. So what? So it's gonna be foreign for her to see you with a woman, to see you in a stable relationship, and it's gonna be easier for her to, attempt to destroy that, and subconsciously or consciously, because there's two variables. You know, she doesn't. You having a positive relationship is proof that she failed with your father, you know, and rather than face that, rather than face that, she'd rather that you yourself have a broken relationship. That's why you see a lot of, I think you see a lot of videos where single mother, still supporting her son and, like showing a sign of happiness as her son or daughter goes through a relationship where it's breaking up, where she says, don't worry, mama's got you, mama's still here. Because if that relationship was to work, it would force her to look in the mirror and see her downfalls and what she did wrong to destroy her own family. Because the truth is this, man. You watch a lot of these Dr. Phil's, The View, any of these dumb talk shows, the truth is this: a relationship is very simple. It is very simple. You know what I'm saying? It's that the laws and, I mean, we're in a consumerism society. So, you know, they push things to destroy relationships. The truth is this: if a man comes home, they have a home together, they have food, they have shelter, they have safety. You know what I mean? The rest is simple. I've said this in a video before. The biggest thing that keeps a relationship together is routine. And if you look at society right now, they're against routine. What do they call routine? That man's predictable, that man's dull, that relationship's boring. No, that's that's what a relationship is. It becomes routine. Once routine is established, then you can have trust. Us men, we all notice that the best thing for our family is routine, where everything is predictable. Then it's easier for us to focus on potentially improving it or looking at issues that might occur. The thing is this: a marriage, all these things, they're simple. That guy isn't beating you. You come from work, respect each other. You sit, you eat, you talk. If you want to talk, and that's it. And that's the thing. I think a comedian did something. Yeah, it was Bill Burr, where he said, all a woman had to do was make her man a sandwich. Don't talk to him, just leave. You know what I mean? They pressure this thing where you're in a relationship, you got to talk a lot. No, just being near one another. That's a relationship too, that she comes home knowing that there's, her man is in the house. They don't need to talk. His presence is enough. That's another form of the relationship. I plan to do a video called Signs of a Relationship. But the thing is this, man: love is a combination of lust and all that stuff. the truth is this: the strongest aspect of a relationship is routine. Routine breeds trust. I said this in a previous video. A man comes home, will eat the food prepared by his wife when he hasn't seen it or looked at it. But you go to a restaurant outside, you're watching them, making sure they didn't do nothing wrong to your meal. So what's going to happen, and like I said, is this: the only way to correct the course of your family and be able to maximize the amount of resources you can put into your family, it's gonna be you having to separate yourself and completely from your mother who raised you as a single mother. Because if she purposely destroyed the structure of the family you were supposed to have, then that means from that day forth, it was, you were never the main entrance. You were never the main reason she did anything. It was her greed and her her self-fulfilling, what I'm saying, or selfishness and so on. So the day she pushed away your father and giving you the full experience of having a family, as in knowing both sides of yourself, your manhood and this, and your mother, both side of that, and you, and even daughters. For daughters, I'll do another version of this video which focuses more on the daughter, you know. But in reality, the day your mother pushed away your father, that's the day she basically abandoned your future. She abandoned your future and put it at a high risk. So, and now she becomes an expense. Notice, in the future, she becomes a high expense, high risk, low reward scenario. You gotta take care of her, put money on health bills and all that. That could have gone to your children or your be it wife or the mother of your children or your children or your family in general. That's why the whole single mother thing, when it's done purposely, because like I said, a relationship is very simple. You know, you know this person, the father knows the mother knows the father. They come, they eat, they sit together, they live together, and they have someone they can trust. I plan to do a separate video on relationships and all that. But basically, the day your mother chose to be a single mother over having you, raising you with a full family, was the day she abandoned your future. So since she abandoned your future, once you get older, you have a very major choice to make. Yes, your children will grow up without a grandmother, but that grandmother was not, a mother to you. So if she wasn't a mother to you, her own child, by not being a destroyer of the relationship between you and your father, then what will she be to your children? You know, she will be even more destructive. She didn't push those grandkids out. The mother of your children did, or your wife, whatever did. So what's gonna hold her back from inputting negative aspects into your children? So what happens is this, and it happens a lot, where you could Google it, you could find the statistics. That's why I don't mention a lot of stats in my videos and all that, because dude, you have Google. You could search it, you could research it, you know what I'm saying? But what happens is once these children, and they put all this crap online, oh, forgive your mother, forgive this and that. That's weakness, man. You don't forgive when someone purposely does something negative to you. You don't forgive because you're not angry or bitter. You just remember that aspect so you don't allow it to happen again. So if this quote unquote your proud single mother chose to push your father away, what you think she's gonna do and will be capable of doing to your family? You know what I mean? So the only way to start your family, it's gonna be painful, is that you're gonna have to separate yourself if you haven't already, because a lot of children from broken homes do that. Once they figure out that it was moms that broke the family, and then all the negative energy they've been put about their father for years, that could have been positive, they pushed themselves away because all the memories with their mother is the destruction of their family structure in their household. So what's gonna happen for you is you gonna have to make a choice. My kids can not have a grandmother and actually know what it means to be a part of a caring family structure, or they could have a grandmother who's promoting the fact that she was a single mother, who's promoting the fact that she destroyed a family structure as a positive. So what's going to happen to your daughter, your son? What you think's going to happen to him? Especially your son, what's going to happen to him is that he's going to fall for it too. He's going to become a father that's, you know, pushed away from his children. I mean, grandma did it. She was all right. And look at you. Look at dad. Dad's all right. So that's what's going to happen. And as for your daughter, well, she's going to repeat what grandma did. A lot of times people ask, well, how come, he was raised in a family and he turned out this way? Well, when your grandmother, you know, chose to break a family and she was around you while you were being raised, there's a high risk she influenced you to be that way. You know what I mean? And there's more to it. I plan to do a video on why the nuclear family is destructive to begin with. But the truth is this, to stay on the course, is that you're going to have to decide, and that's if you haven't already left, because there's some people that will leave their single mother who raised them after all that pain and suffering, then introduce her to their children. You got away from her, but now all of a sudden you have children. You want to bring her into those children's life, and put the same risk of pain she put you through to your own children. You know what I'm saying? So, it's a very painful choice to think about, but it's one that you will have to make or think about doing, because it's the fate of your children. What will you do? What will you do when your mother who raised you and chose to be a single mother, her way of avoiding guilt, avoiding responsibility, is to destroy your family. You know what I mean? And then having her there present when she's nothing more than an image of your destruction, and making it seem like a normal thing in front of your own children, what you think's gonna happen? So it's a very painful decision in two ways. Now, for those people, like I said, who already, left their single mother after the toxic relationship, you know what I'm saying? You should avoid introducing her to your future children. Then as for those that haven't left, well, you gotta make a choice. You keep your mother around your children, and you keep her past. You bring her past to the forefront of the present and risk destroying your own family. So, you know what I mean? It's that way. The only way to reset the legacy and fix things, and remember, like I said, I'm assuming all the laws are correct, assuming the laws are righteous between men and women, then you would have to remove your destructive mother, who was a single mother, out of the picture. You know what I mean? Not a lot of people, like I said, man, I'm a very deep person, man. I look at things, even though what I'm saying is, you know, a painful thing to say, but I look at it with absolute logic. And when you look at absolute logic, you gotta remove toxins. You know, you gotta remove the toxins from around you. And if your mother was the worst toxin in your life, and I plan to do a video called Forgive Your Father. I plan to do a video called Forgive Your Father. It's a video that will go into detail of why you should forgive your father, you know, if he wasn't the one that destroyed the family. And even if he was, for example, if your father was a criminal, or if your father was abusive to your mother, you know what I mean, or a lot more things, you have to ask yourself this question. I'll do the video. Is that who chose him? He didn't, you know, who chose him? Who chose to be pregnant by him? You know, there's a price. Nothing is free, man. Even the gift of life isn't free. The gift of life might come with some suffering, depending on who gave you life and who allowed them to give you life. So that'll be another video I'll do. But like I said, you're gonna have to make a choice. You keep your mother who raised you and chose to be a single mother around your children and your family and risk destroying your family and your legacy, or you push her away and abandon her like she abandoned your future. You know what I'm saying? And leave her behind. And then you don't pay the excessive expenses. Because I've seen it. I've seen a lot of older women outside on the streets because at some point their own children look at them and see the destruction they had to face and just say, yo, moms, you weren't really my mom. You know, you destroyed me. You destroyed my relationship. We could have had it with a father over what? Nothing, you know. So I don't want you in my life. You're a living reminder that I never had a family. You know, so it's a really painful choice you gotta make. You know, that's if you're starting a family and the laws are right, you know. As you know, with this philosophy, I want to thank Donovan Sharp for saying it. You know, as you know, with the crimson capsule, crimson pill philosophy, and the MG Tao philosophy. You know, no cohabitation, no marriage, none of that. But I'm just saying, like I said, if the laws were all right, even if the laws were all correct between man and woman, at the end of the day, the sins of your single mother would risk destroying your family. Hey, everybody, what's up? This is Hold the Truth Hostage, where if the truth was so important, we wouldn't negotiate with lies. Now, just remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And, you know, this is the third video in my Single Mother's Living Debt series. Now, this one is gonna focus more on the daughter. Now, what happens in the previous video, just to catch you up, is that when a mother chooses to be a single mother, she becomes a living debt to her children. What I mean by that is that
since there's no father around, the children would have to carry the burden of worrying about their mother as she ages, as in they'll have to take resources that they would have to invest in their own children towards their mother, since their father isn't in her life, you know. Now this video is about how this affects the daughter. The previous two videos I mostly focused on, the son, how this affects the son, but as well as the daughter, but I didn't go as deep. Now this section is about the daughter. Now the danger of having a woman volunteer to be a single mother is that she places the imagery, especially if she has sole custody of the daughter, she places the image that a woman, when it comes to a woman and a man, that the true relationship is how much the woman could distance herself from the authority of her children's father, when compared to her authority. And that's the darkest aspect of a woman who volunteers to be a single mother, is that it in turn teaches the daughter that to be a mother is to manipulate and maintain a level of distance from the father of your children to your own, when compared to your own authority. And what this will further do is that it will actually in turn teach that daughter to herself at a high rate of, I think it's over 90%, if if a woman was a single mother, that her daughter will follow suit. And what happens is that it's a high rate of over 90% that the daughter herself will repeat the same choice as her mother. And that same choice will be to be a voluntary single mother and to eventually become debt, a living embodiment of debt herself. And what happens is that the mother, let's say the daughter's mother will pressure her to actually have a child. The single mother will pressure her daughter to become another single mother, so she can in turn use that guilt and loneliness that the daughter will have, so she can further bond with her daughter and manipulate her daughter into living under her thumb. You see, once a daughter volunteers to be a single mother, she volunteers to not have her own family. You see, when a woman and a man come together, it's them starting their own family. So they leave their own family behind. And now they're the priority, as in their family. So when the daughter becomes a single mother, what the mother will do, that happens to also that is a single mother, is that this mother will latch onto the daughter and will apply a level of pressure that the daughter is alone, that all the daughter has is her single mother, and all the daughter can trust is her single mother, and the daughter has to keep that child within that single mother's life, or that child won't have a grandmother, and so on. So that single mother's gonna manipulate her daughter, her relationship with her daughter, to further establish a grip on her daughter's life, and her daughter now becomes her workhorse. As you can see, there's a lot of videos where they showcase a daughter is now, living with her mother, and her mother's the babysitter, and so on. A lot of times people look at it from that one perspective of, oh, the daughter became a single mother and dumped the child into her mother's hand, without understanding that this was the intent from the very beginning by the mother. Because now, since that single mother is too old to have more children, the only way she can gather and get close to resources is to stay close to her own daughter who's getting resources, be it off her child's father from child support or aid from the government for being a single mother. So that's why a lot of times you'll see a daughter becomes a single mother, and you'll see the mother put blame and attack her and so on. It's to put all that negative energy she herself could never take. You see, when a mother becomes a single mother, what she's gonna do when she volunteers to keep the father out of her children's life is that she can't accept the responsibility of her actions. So to further not accept that, she's gonna put that responsibility on her daughter. So she's gonna lash out on her daughter, be more aggressive, say you messed up your life or this and that, you're a failure, you're this and that. She's putting all her energy and all the truth about herself towards her daughter to further attack and destroy her daughter's self-esteem so she can have more control over her daughter. So she's gonna break that daughter's self-esteem, just destroy it, to have further control over her daughter. She's gonna make her daughter feel absolutely alone in this world. So her daughter can pinpoint that the only person in her life that has value is her own single mother that destroyed her life to begin with by not allowing her to have a father within her life, So the cycle will continue, and it's only gonna get worse. And then what happens with the daughter, and the thing is this, the daughter, by having the mother in her life, her mother that happens to be a single mother, she will actually be able to get even more pregnant, and have even more children, and grasp and attain more resources through child support and so on, because rather than face her issues, you see, when single mothers used to be abandoned by their own mothers and so on, it left a mental stain that what you did is absolutely shameful, and you not allowing your children to have a father, or you selecting the wrong male, has destroyed you, and I won't be a part of it. I won't give you any way or form to repeat it. You see, back in the day when the single mothers would remove, when mothers would remove themselves from their daughter who's now a single mother, that daughter would have to focus absolutely on their child. There wouldn't be someone to babysit at a low price so you could go to the club and risk getting pregnant again, or not risk, or volunteer to get pregnant again. So by having her, by a daughter having her single mother in her life, it's actually gonna aid her to further increase that amount of children she'll have, and amount of chaos, and actually have more children, because she can depend on her own single mother that's actually leeching off of her resources to watch her children, so she can go out in the club and have eventually become more pregnant, potentially bring STDs and more destruction into her own children's life. You see, as I said before, you see what happened is, once the single mother gets too old, let's say, late 40s, when it's impossible for her to have children to further feed off child support and live off of that, she's gonna look at her daughter as a continuation, a way to regain resources by pushing her daughter to actually get pregnant,
pushing her daughter to actually get into relationships sooner than later, repeating the process because that's the only way she can obtain access to more resources, since her time and fertility window and ability to get pregnant by a man to obtain child support is gone. And now the damage, the psychological damage it's gonna have on a daughter of a single mother is that now the daughter's whole identity of being a mother is how far she can keep the father of her children away from having authority in her children's life. Then the other thing that happens is that by not having a father around, this daughter will not know or understand how to exist beside a man besides her sexuality she has to offer. You see, if she had a father, and this is why a lot of women that come from a volunteered single motherhood where their mother was a volunteered single mother cannot maintain a relationship, is because they never had to maintain a non-sexually driven relationship with a man. So she doesn't know how to properly exist and coexist with a man besides her sexuality. You see, if she had a father around, she would know how to talk to her father, how to respect his authority, how to not make him upset, how to properly cook, clean, how to showcase a level of respect and love to her father that has nothing to do with her sexuality. It just has to do with how she can socialize with a man and be a benefit to that man beyond sexuality. And by living under the roof of her single mother, she will only learn that being a man is her sexuality. As in that's all she has to offer, that her socialization skills are all about her sexuality. So that's why it becomes easier to sleep around with a daughter of a single mother, because that's socially all she knows. All she knows when dealing with a man and when socializing and communicating with that man is her sexuality. Because without a father around, as she gets of age to have sex and so on, and remember, I'm gonna go deeper, and remember is that as she gets of age to have sex, her mother is gonna tell her when she can have sex and so on, and teach her about sexuality. But her mother will not teach her any communication or socializing with men, because she couldn't socialize with the father of her daughter, and by not being able to do that, she can't even teach her daughter. And the other thing you have to understand is a woman who volunteers to be a single mother will not want to accept any responsibility for her choices. So when communicating with her daughter, to avoid any of that responsibility, she's only gonna encourage her daughter to repeat it, because it's a way for her to now transition from worrying about her mistakes to worrying about and pointing out her daughter's mistakes. So what happens is that she's gonna encourage her daughter to be calm, be accepting of her sexuality through multiple facets, be it how many men she brings in the house to sleep around that are just random, that come and go, like takeout, those, we'll call them takeout guys, they come in, they come out, you know what I'm saying? Or come and go guys, she brings around. She's gonna teach her daughter how that's a stable relationship, is how many men you can actually be with. You see, that's why I see a lot of these chicks out here saying I can sleep with 50, 10 guys, whatever, I've had this many and that many, because that's how she claims she's socialized with men, through her sexuality. And then what happens is the mother won't
the mother won't attack the daughter until the daughter becomes a single mother. And the mother will allow it to happen and actually, promote it and actually look like she's her daughter's friend, because she's going to transition to her daughter's friend and not mother, because that way she can attach herself even more and have a psychological advantage, because she's not, when she talks down to her daughter's gonna look at it as, that's not just my mom, that's my best friend talking down to me, so I might as listen to her, when the daughter repeats the cycle and gets pregnant and so on. Another thing that's gonna happen is that with this is that when the daughter gets, has a child and so on, as I stated, the single mother will never tell her, won't give her negative, because the mother wants to, as I say, she wants to stay away from responsibility for her own actions, and she wants to look like a hero and a best friend to her daughter, so she can maintain her closeness to her daughter, so she can eventually leech on her own daughter's resources from when her daughter gets child support, some government aid, or and so on. Because the thing about single motherhood is it's about, and I'm going to make another video, which will be part 4, it's about debt. She's the living embodiment of debt, and her children will be treated as debt in her eyes, that her children owe her money. You know what I'm saying? Her children owe her money for her giving them life and so on. I'll go into another video, but back to the daughter. So what happens is, once the daughter's pregnant, the mother leeches on her daughter's resources, because what I was trying to say is this. You see, when a daughter has a mother and a father, she is prompt to push forward. And when she has a proper relationship where her mother and father have a proper relationship, not some simp-made dude who's just on his knees worshiping the ground his wife walks, and who has no manhood, has no masculinity or anything. If she has a healthy, she's raised under a healthy relationship between her mother and father, she's gonna want to pursue and have her own family. She's gonna want to have her own family and make her own legacy by becoming a mother and having her own family. But in the presence of a single mother, what happens to the daughter is she's not about having her own family anymore. It's about bringing her mother along. It's about continuing that cycle of destruction that was first introduced to her by her mother. You know what I'm saying? It's not about having her own husband and her own family and moving beyond her own mother. It's not about starting her own family and moving beyond her mother's presence and her mother's authority. It's about that continuation. That's why you see a lot of single mother daughters repeat the cycle, because that mother not being able to accept responsibility and having had destroyed the future of that child by pushing away their father, pushing away their father, has no plans or any plans to actually allow her daughter to move on and have her own children, have her own future. Because if her daughter were to move on, she would not have access to those resources. So that's one of the big things. And the other thing is, like I said, it messes up the whole mentality of the daughter. Her whole perception is gone. I'll probably do a part 2 on this one, after I look at it. But this has been Hold the Truth Hostage, where if the truth was so important, we wouldn't negotiate with lies. Remember to like, comment, and, if you want to share, do that. All right, peace. They said the truth won't survive beside the lies that maintain the decaying faces of